Hey, writers! I am really excited today to welcome Erin Radniecki. Welcome, Erin.
Hello, Sarah. Good to see you.
It's good to see you too. It's always good to see you. And I love having you come to talk to the writers because you have an area of expertise that is way outside of my own. And it's always so fun to get your take on things. So, writers, let me introduce you to Erin here a bit. She is a nature enthusiast and an Author Accelerator certified book coach based in Oregon's Willamette Valley. She helps nature passionate people write fiction that makes readers care about the natural world. Her goal as a book coach is to get more books out into the world that inspire others to pay attention to the creatures and natural spaces around us. When she's not reading, you'll find her in her backyard gardening for pollinators. And you will also find her posting excellent photos and videos on Instagram with some of these things that she's doing. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Love your Instagram channel. So maybe we'll talk about that at the end here a bit. But I mentioned the nature writing, and I love nature. I really do. It's just not something I am naturally prone to doing. And so I love having you here to talk about this, talking about nature, specifically writing about nature in fiction writing. So maybe let's start with the big question here. We think about nature and automatically we're thinking about setting, right? And
Yep.
that's good. That's good. But I know that you have a lot of other creative ways to think about incorporating nature just beyond the setting aspect of it. Could you maybe talk about that a little bit?
Of course. And I want to say, there's nothing wrong with focusing on setting. That is definitely part of your story. And it's a great a great place to spend time and energy. But if you're looking to really center nature in your story, you're probably going to want to go beyond setting. And I think my opinion, the clearest and the most direct way to incorporate nature is to figure out what is your main character's relationship to it, to the natural world. And what's important to our main character is what's important in the story. So if it's important or off-putting to your main character, then that's going to get into your story too. So, how does your main character feel about nature? Are they enthusiastic? Do they look at every six-legged creature as a threat? Right? There's it's okay, Sarah. And there's it's a whole spectrum. It could be lots of places in between. But once you figure out what nature means to your character, then you can start to tailor other elements of your story for maximum impact. And so the ones that I like to think about are the obstacle, like what is the obstacle your character is facing? What are the choices that they make throughout the story? What is the transformation, their before and after? How are they different at the end of the story? And then what's the point that your book is making? And I think as we're writing and as we're focusing on nature, you don't have to really, you know, hit people over the head with it if you don't want to. But maybe at least look at including nature in at least two of those
Hmm.
elements of your story. And maybe the obstacle that your character is facing doesn't really have anything to do with nature, but maybe it brushes up alongside their feelings about nature, and they have to make choices that do they go against how they feel about the natural world, or do they stay the course and really make a tougher decision? There's all sorts of ways that this can come about,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think once you know what it means to your main character, you can start to really plan and plant seeds as to what's going to be the biggest challenge for them, and how are they going to go about uh, getting what it is that they want. So yeah, but I think really looking at those elements throughout the story can help you go a little deeper than just pretty scenery.
Right, right. So do you find that a lot of the writers that you're working with that are in that nature-centric space, do you find that they are um, maybe trying to, you mentioned having a point, a message through your book. Do you find often that those points are based on nature, or are you finding more just like nature being a big part of the story, but the point is still something maybe more universal or not so focused on nature? Where are you seeing that
Um,
balance?
I'm seeing a lot of people want to make nature the point,
Mm,
but then through the course of writing the story, usually it becomes more of a sub point, I guess. And so
yeah,
they usually have they usually end up having more of a universal message, but that also there's a sub message of nature tends to be how I've seen it. That's not to say that's how all writers are going to where they're going to land, but just in my experience, that's kind of what it's. But it definitely is. People come to me, and that is they want to focus on nature and they want it to be a big part of their story. So
yeah.
I'm happy to support that because I think not everyone is thinking about nature all the time, and those of us who are like to band together and be seen.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So when we talk about those big ideas that you were just talking about, so just to make sure that I'm understanding correctly, because maybe there are going to be some writers with similar questions. Um, you're seeing like maybe a writer might think that they're writing a book about saving trees, for instance. Like their thing is going to be like, we need to save the trees, is what they think their message is going to be. But then as they're working on their story, they find out maybe their message is more about like community is important. And that community aspect is because there's a community group that's working together to save the trees. Am I understanding?
Yep, you
Okay.
got it.
Okay, great. Okay. So, as we are trying to incorporate nature here in an authentic way, what are some common pitfalls you see maybe in ways that it's not done well?
Sure. So there's one big one that comes to mind right away for me, and I think when we're writing about nature, sometimes I think, and it's not just true for nature. I think it's any topic that we can be passionate about. Sometimes it's easy to come off as being preachy.
Mm,
And I think because often when we're writing about nature, we are either directly discussing or brushing up against, adjacent to some topics, maybe hot button issues. And so I think the important thing to do is to make sure that you are giving thoughtful attention to both sides of whatever
mhm.
topic you may be tackling. It's true. I think it's true for any time that we're writing. If you have characters or points of view being represented that are kind of at different ends of a spectrum, I think it's important to make sure that all of the characters are fully fleshed out. They aren't a caricature of a certain group, and make sure that you give the other side, if you have an other side in your story, a chance to articulate their point of view. And I think that's going to create the kind of energy that's going to be most helpful for the audience of your story. So if that makes sense.
That does make a lot of sense because I'm thinking just about myself since you since you talked about bugs. I'm not a big fan of bugs. Things that move quickly startle me, and so I have a hard time with small things that just kind of like move around really fast. And and yet I also have mixed feelings about things that are done to eliminate bugs. Like so I feel like I feel this tension even within myself and it would be easy for someone to just be like, she hates bugs and therefore she checks off all these marks, or, she loves bugs and she checks off all these marks. But
Sure.
probably most people are somewhere in the middle of all these extremes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. For
Yeah.
sure. So
Yeah. No. Okay. So that's great. So as we have alluded to, I love being out in nature, uh, to a certain extent. No, I do love the natural world, and I am someone who would very much like aspire to be out in it more. I just also know my personality and be like, what we want to be is maybe not who we are, and maybe I need to come to peace with this. But um, if there's someone like me who really wants to include more nature writing in their work, What kind of encouragement can you give me here, Erin?
Okay, so let's think about this in two ways. Let's think about the practical side, like that has to do with the writing, and that's, there are, if you're not used to being aware of the natural world, if you're not used to, if you aren't the type of person who just goes outside and immediately is like zeroing in on every insect or bird's nest or whatever, is just to make a practice of it. Maybe for you, it's to make a practice of being outside, and then when you see something moving fast towards you, you take a calm breath instead of jumping. But go out for a walk without your phone, and without your earbuds, and see what you notice. And then a few days later, do it again and see what you notice that's different. See if you can notice patterns or change. So we get these aha moments when we're in a place regularly enough to notice those things, those differences. So building the habit of awareness can be helpful. You can connect with groups in your community. Seems like there are bird watching clubs everywhere, and they often lead hikes, or walks in parks, and you can be there with a group and see what others are noticing. You can ask the leader, like, what do you notice when you look at this landscape? Because if you aren't someone who's often seeing the details, asking someone who does see the details can help you, figure out how you're informing your story, and without feeling the pressure of having to like notice all the things yourself. And then, if you are writing about a place that you've never visited or an animal that you've never seen, like, the internet is your friend. I guarantee there is a YouTube channel where someone has gone to whatever ecosystem or habitat and has done educational videos. So you don't have to go there yourself. You don't have to go sit in a swamp if you don't want to. If you need a swamp for your book, but you don't want to go there yourself, someone else has done that for you. Or even, zoos or aquariums, raptor rehabilitation centers, they all have social media channels, and they all post videos, and sometimes they'll do Q&As. So you can get the information you need from your computer. You don't even have to go outside. But then on the emotional, like the personal side, Sarah, is I think it's okay to explore your relationship with nature and tie it into your book in some way. Maybe it's through your main character or a side character, but channel your experiences and your feelings as they are, show up authentically, and you can put your authentic energy into your book on the page, and it will have a place, right? And you don't have to be the uber, like,
Right.
nature. It sounds and it looks like I'm doing a lot of outdoor stuff, but like, I am not a hiker. Like, when we go for a walk, we go for a hike that is like an hour-long loop, and I'm stopping every 5 feet to take pictures. So, you don't have to be really outdoorsy to still capture nature and include it in your book.
Right. And I love what you said about the authenticity, because with that in mind, I can incorporate it into my book. But then maybe there's also some, I don't know if caution is the right word to use, but some care to consider if it's a good idea for me to be writing an adventure story that's about like a hike through the Grand Canyon or something. Like there is a level of be true to you,
Yeah.
and if I'm not going to experience some of this, there's like a little bit of a, do you see what I'm saying? Like there's a little bit of a, like,
Well,
maybe let's put a pause around that until I'm ready to go to that level.
I mean, you have to be excited about the story that you're going
Yeah.
to write. And if you feel like some aspect of it isn't, like, you're not fully committed to it, or you're not willing to, I don't know. I'm not saying that you have to go to the Grand Canyon and do a hike. I wouldn't do that. It'd be too hot for me. I wouldn't make it. But yeah, I mean, I think if there's lots of ways to brainstorm other
Yeah.
other scenarios if you're not feeling totally in love with your first idea.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Very good. Okay, so I already mentioned that you share a lot of really cool things on Instagram. Could you tell the writers where to find you on Instagram?
Yes, so I'm at Right with Nature, so same as
Yes.
the website, and yeah, I post lots of just I'm kind of thank you Instagram for being there to like for me to have a spot to share. I'm kind of like my dad who like texts me pictures of things in his yard, like look at this snake, look at this bee. Well, I just put mine on Instagram, so I'm not any better than my dad in that sense.
Well, I think your photos and your videos are always such fun and they're so beautiful to look at too. So, and then your website is rightwithnature.com.
Mhm, that's right.
Very good. And I know you have a new resource. I would love to hear about it.
I do. Yes. I created a new free resource. It is my story ecosystem starter kit. So it's 4 days of content and it takes you through defining the 5 foundational elements of your novel, which happen to be the things that I talked about earlier in this interview. And so it helps you to grow your idea and to brainstorm and see what is the right ecosystem balance for your story as you're starting out. So I love it for new ideas. I also love it if you've been thinking about an idea and plug it in and see if it really works. Because I put my idea into my framework and thought, oh, I thought I knew a whole lot more about my story than I actually do. So it's a great resource. I would love to have people take a look and let me know what they think because I'm in love with it. Hopefully others will love it too.
Yeah, fantastic. So, writers, Erin works with folks who love this nature component of their fiction, which is fantastic. But you work with all age categories, right? Middle grade, YA, and adult.
Yes.
So that is all lovely. So, Erin, I want to thank you so much for hopping on and chatting with me about nature-centric fiction.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm always happy to be here to speak with you. So good to see you.
Always good to see you. All right, writers, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye.